Hello and welcome to another edition of the Tech Guy's Midnight Court, the Tech Guy off the radio. I am your host, Pete the Tech Guy, half fedora, not traveling at all, basically podcasting from the house. And we're going to spend about 45 minutes to an hour talking about the issues, talking about some news. Be a nice distraction from a mediocre day at work. But I'm glad that I can spend some time with you. And just a reminder, if you like what you see here, you can find us at DaTechGuyBlog.com, DaTechGuy blog.com, the Tech Guy blog on Twitter, the Tech Guy blogs channel on YouTube, where this is streaming. And of course, if you like what you see, please consider giving the podcast a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing so we can get enough people to monetize the channel. Or if you really and share it with your friends on Facebook and other places, because I'm not a Facebook guy. And if you really like it, consider hitting the tip jar, because the reason why we're doing the podcast is to raise about an extra $180 a month. So if you like what you see and you want to kick in to help pay for it, feel free to do so. We'd be delighted to have you in here. Well, today's topic is the last time we talked, Joe Biden had just done his interview with Mika Brzezinski. I hadn't had a chance to see the interview because it happened literally just after I did the podcast. I watched it afterwards. And I think it's been very interesting how this is being played. And I think this was war gamed quite a bit in advance. Though I mentioned the last time how a lot of the interview before Biden got on was all about, first, we at Morning Joe are wonderful. Second, here is the Biden situation. And third, here's how horrible Donald Trump is. And the very moment that the interview was over, and I'll give Mika Brzezinski credit, it was not an easy interview. And Joe Biden didn't make it any easier. But the moment was over, all of a sudden, and I'm still getting tweets in my thing saying, "Well, is now Trump going to sit down about the 23 people?" And I think that's such a funny argument, because we're watching how this is being played, and basically, this is all being used to attack Trump, which is a little bit the way Trump did this, in a way that when they remember, I mentioned the Jeffrey Epstein business, which spooked them before, but what's really funny is that the media acts as though they haven't been the media for the last 4 years. The reality being that if you, the media has been on Trump 24/7, attacking. And even literally within 20 minutes of his inauguration, we already had the first articles about impeachment. Now, if any of the people who had been going after Trump were credible, were strong arguments, Jake Tapper, Rachel Maddow, and all the others would have had them on a rotating basis for the last 4 years. None of them have. None of them were. So the whole, well, now Trump has to sit down, is very, very funny, because once again it demonstrates that these women are only of value if they can be used to attack Republicans. None of the women that they're now trying to trumpet forward were newsworthy enough to be on Jake Tapper. None of them were newsworthy enough to be on MSNBC. None of them were newsworthy enough to push forward. But now that they have to try and play whataboutism with Joe Biden, suddenly we see this kind of play. And what's really funny about it is the chutzpah that we're getting from the media, because Biden himself is probably not going to be heard about this. And the title of this podcast, the title of today's live stream, is Joe Biden's Fifth Avenue Moment. And for those of you who don't know, and I'm presuming that most of the people who would watch this show will know, what this is referring to is the statement that the president made during the campaign when he said bluntly that I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and my people would still be with me. And he got a lot of criticism for that, a very lot of criticism. And you'll pardon me for typing while I do this at the time, trying to promote the live stream at the same time. as I'm doing the live stream. So, the president said that, and there's some truth to it. I remember that when I wrote my endorsement of Donald Trump, because I had been a Ted Cruz man, I wrote down bluntly that there were times that President Trump would disappoint me. I wasn't sure how Donald Trump was going to be, but I was sure that Hillary Clinton was going to take my rights away, which is a very true statement. But we've seen some amazing reactions from our friends on the left. Some of them have brought back dear memories from my past and from the country's past. One of the things that I really enjoyed watching was seeing people make arguments like this. This is John Cooper. I want to read you this tweet. John Cooper, formerly chair of the Democrat Coalition, National Finance Chair for Draft Biden 2016, long item campaign chair for Barack Obama. This is what he had to say yesterday. I don't know if Tara Reade is unbalanced or was driven by malicious motives, but it's clear that the story is over. Now let's get back to the real issues like Trump's incompetence and how that has led to the deaths of 70,000 Americans with 30 million filing for unemployment. Now, that's chutzpah. But what's really funny about it is this is the same thing that these guys were saying about Bill Clinton back in 1995 when the Monica Lewinsky stuff. Let's ignore this and get back to the business of the American people. That was the play. And it's, it's when you're old like me, it's nice when you hear some of the old greats come back, and it's a lot of fun. But that wasn't my favorite. But what I'm also seeing a lot of is stuff like this, and this is from hotair.com, linking to a Yahoo piece by Robin Abakarian called Whatever Happened with Tara Reade, Biden is still infinitely better than Trump. But before I read you that piece, I want to read you something that old pal Robert Stacey McCain wrote. Because I'm usually pretty in sync with Stacey McCain, but I think he's wrong about this. And let's see, and feds are dead. Okay, that's not the. There we are. And the piece that I want to talk about is called Stick a Fork in Joe Biden. But before I read you that piece, I want to read you this one. And this is kind of an explanation of why his piece is wrong. You will hear from, this is from Yahoo via Hot Air. This is Robin Abakarian. You'll hear from a lot of folks, and often Biden himself, about Biden's integrity. People talk about his empathy, his humanity, and his stunning amount of personal pain and loss he has endured. And while that is all true, we cannot overlook his flaws. He was accused of plagiarism in law school. In 1998, when he first sought the presidential nomination, he was forced to drop off after he was caught plagiarizing British Labour Party leaders Neil Kinnock's speeches about his Scrabble upbringing. He turned a blind eye to his son Hunter's sleazy exploitation of his family name. And now he's fending off a terrible accusation, which has handed him with something which he has handled with something approaching grace, if not full transparency. That I hope you weren't drinking when I read that line. He's not perfect, but he's not Donald Trump. If Biden is elected, he will surely begin to mend this broken country, renew our standing in the world, stop the demonization of immigrants, expand access to healthcare, appoint judges who put people over corporations, and try to save us all from climate change. In other words, Joe Biden, at least he's not Donald Trump. Now, Stacey McCain's piece is called Stick a Fork in Joe Biden. And he states he is done. New Biden accuser. He complimented my breasts when I was 14 years old. Can she prove this? She says there were witnesses. Quote, when it was Biden and my aunt's turn to say hello, he quickly turned to me and asked how old I was. I replied with my age, and he replied with the comment, 14? You're very well endowed for 14. I was confused, but it was definitely weird. He looked me up and down and hovered his eyes on my chest, so I had some clue about the notion of his comment, but I didn't really understand at the time. We quickly separated from the area after the encounter. Could it be argued that this is dispensable? Were her breasts so unusually large that Biden's expression of astonishment was justified? I mean, in the instance of bipartisan and due process rights, should we give an old guy a break if she was spotting 38 double D's in the 9th grade? Never mind. I suspect my Republican readers are not in the mood to be tolerant of Biden's idiosyncrasies. But the question is whether Democrats believe it's okay for a U.S. senator to remark on the size of a 14-year-old's breasts, no matter how astonishingly large they might be. My hunch is that this is just one more shoe dropping, what will quickly become an avalanche of accusations against Biden. It's kind of what happened with Roy Moore. The guy had been in public life in Alabama for decades, and I had followed Moore's career since the 1990s. He never had a word of inappropriate behavior by him. Then all at once, Moore was accused by a half dozen women of having harassed him when they were teenagers in the 70s and 80s. The avalanche effect has toppled many prominent men in the Me Too era. Once the first accusation of misconduct is made, the accusers seem to come out of the woodwork. One day you're a senator, a movie star, or a network news anchor, and the next thing you know, Gloria Allred is holding a press conference with weeping survivors and your career is over. Once someone becomes a target of this machinery of destruction, the result is never really in doubt. If indeed Biden made the remark attributed to him, isn't it likely he made similar remarks to other large-breasted girls? Of course it is. And now that the starting whistle of the Me Too accusation derby is blown, every other woman who is ever an object of Biden's interest will soon come forward to tell her tale. Qui bono? Of course, we know the answer to that question. And he has a tweet from Benny Johnson. Watch how Speaker Pelosi talked about sexual accusations against Brett Kavanaugh compared to Joe Biden. What happened to believe all women and believe survivors? The left can't stand up to the standards they've set for themselves. Now, I like Stacey McCain, as I said, and Stacey's usually right on, but he's wrong about this. And I've written a piece on it that's going to go up shortly after this podcast. And the piece is titled Joe Biden's Shoots Someone on Fifth Avenue Moment. And this is basically, and again, I'm going to read you a bit of this piece. This piece will be up in a little while. I remember a while back when the Billy Bush, and this is my piece that I'm reading. I remember a while back when the Billy Bush tape came out during the 2016 campaign, old friend Stacey McCain wrote that Trump was finished. Quote, the election is over. Write a 30 at the bottom and file it. If it had been a regular election year with a regular established milquetoast candidate facing a standard Democrat candidate, he might have been right. However, as it was Donald Trump facing Hillary Clinton, he turned, thanks to be God, out to be wrong that day. And that's, I just noticed the spelling out there, so we will fix that. Turned out to be wrong that day. So I shouldn't be editing it here. But I'm here. I got the page up, so I might as well fix that. I mentioned this because he now has a piece about Joe Biden getting finished, and I won't requote it because I just read the entire piece to you. Now, it's natural that Stacey thinks this. After all, we've reached a point where Kathleen Parker is hitting Democrats in general. Quote, in the aftermath of the Kavanaugh hearings, Ford has become a symbol of women's empowerment. She appeared on the cover of Time magazine and received awards and praise for her courage. She also suffered vicious social media attacks and threats, as did Kavanaugh and his family. She has largely kept to herself since, which is surely good for her soul, but is also a reminder of another lesson in the decades-long culture war over sexual harassment. Once the feminist power brokers are finished with you, they move on to slay other monsters, unless it's one of their own monsters. And Andrew Sullivan hitting Joe Biden in particular. Quote, Joe Biden has been practicing sexual violence for decades, constantly touching women without prior consent, ruffling and smelling their hair, making comments about their attractiveness, coming up from behind to touch their back or neck. You can see him do it on tape on countless occasions. He did not stop in 2014 to abide by the standards he was all too willing to oppose on college kids. And he's referring to the standards that are used in college investigations that Biden pushed. A vice president could do these things with impunity. College sophomore could have his life ruined for an inept remark. Biden is now claiming he simply never did what Tara Reade said he did. Let's post it that he didn't. Too bad. If he were to attempt to defend himself by his own campus logic, he would be barred any knowledge of what precisely he was accused of or even the identity of his accusers as hypocrites. We haven't reached the point where Parker or Sullivan have called him for him to drop out. In fact, Sullivan declares bluntly he will vote for him because Trump, which frankly doesn't surprise me. And I tweeted about this earlier saying, Frankly, while speculation on the right concerning if Joe Biden stays or goes from the Democrat ticket it post Tara Reade is fun, the decision will be made by folks like the original underscore JZ or Brown Sugar 7878 rather than folks like me. So it's their opinion that matters at the subject. Now, I have that original JZ is the fellow that I have the $200 bet with concerning the election. And Brown Sugar 7878 is a liberal activist who used to appear on my terrestrial radio show, The Tech Guy on the Radio, as one of the liberal panelists that I would occasionally have on. And she has bluntly said that she's voting for Joe Biden. She's proud to vote for Joe Biden. Now, all during the Kavanaugh time and the Roy Moore time, she was attacking, and was on my case about any defenses I was made. Now, furthermore, it's almost quaint to think that Gloria Allred or any of the other various women's groups are going to vet or illustrate any of the existing women or the new women who come out concerning Biden. After all, as soon as the Biden interview was done, Jake Tapper was already pivoting it to use it as an attack on Donald Trump. And the LA Times actually ran a piece stating, quote, he's not perfect, but he's not Donald Trump. Yes, the LA Times actually did do that. And we already have one Biden guy out there playing the classic Bill Clinton line from the 1990s, and that's the John Cooper quote that I've already read you. These women's groups don't get the funding from women who, like Reade until a few months ago, believed they were fighting for rights. Their bills get paid by big foundations acting as conduits to Democrat money to push the message of the day. I'll give the final word to Miss Allred's daughter, Lisa Bloom, with my reply. This is what Lisa Bloom had to say about the Tara Reade accusations. I believe you, Tara Reade. You have people who remember you told them about this decades ago. We know he's handsy. You're not asking for money. You've obviously struggled mightily with this. I still have to fight Trump, so I will support Joe. But I believe you, and I'm sorry. So think about this for a second. And this is what I replied to her. Why, it's almost as if you would vote for Joe Biden if he stood in the middle of Fifth Avenue. But no one starts somebody as real Donald Trump once quipped. The difference of being you state for the record, you believe Biden assaulted Tara Reade and will still vote for him. Unexpectedly, of course. So the president joked about this. Here is Lisa Bloom, Gloria Allred's daughter, saying bluntly, I believe Joe Biden sexually assaulted this woman, and I'm going to vote for him anyways. So we've reached a point where Democrats don't care if Biden has done this thing. And I've already said, and I mentioned it in the last podcast, I think CNN and the others think that he did it. And their actions beforehand suggest that's the case. But think of what Lisa Bloom is saying here. Lisa Bloom believes Tara Reade and says, I'm sorry, but I still have to vote for Joe Biden. In other words, they will vote for Joe Biden come hell or high water. In other words, if Joe Biden, I mean, think about that. What if Donald Trump said, I could sexually assault somebody and people could believe I did it and people would vote for me? This is where we are with Joe Biden. We have Democrats we have Democrat activists who are saying out loud, I believe Tara Reade. Of course, we have others who are trying to attack her. But we have Democrat activists who are saying, I believe her, and I'm still going to vote for him. That is the point we are at. That is the point we are at. And it's an amazing moment. It's a really amazing moment when you think about this. And those people who really believed, and some of them, like Reade herself, really believed that these women's groups cared about this, that they really thought this made a difference. That they really, really believed that these groups cared about these issues. Now they know they don't. Now they know they don't. Now they know that Joe Biden is, because Joe Biden is Joe Biden, because they so hate Donald Trump, They are going to do this. Now, I want to read you this quote from this is a tweet from Kristen Gillibrand from 2018. The Trump administration has withheld thousands of pages of Kavanaugh records. This confirmation process looked more like a cover up any day. Where's the administration trying to hide from the American people? We deserve answers. Molly Hemingway answers this today. Before they latched on to Blasey Ford, the prime Democrat of Kavanaugh related to presidential records needing to be released. Now, though, they're protecting Biden as he conceals relevant Senate records. And think about this. Biden is a public servant. He was in the Senate because he asked the people of Delaware, hey, give me this job. And then he was vice president. And he asked the American people, hey, give me this job. And now he wants to be president. He's saying, hey, give me this job. But I don't want you to see the records of when I worked for you before. But give me the job anyways. Think about that for a second. Think about this. It is an amazing, amazing thing that we reach this point. And there's a lesson to this. I mean, Glenn Reynolds calls it when Me Too is sold out for Orange Man bad. And says, remember, whenever an activist group or activist individual is feminists are just Democratic Party tools, they'll sacrifice women's interests as a group of individuals whenever it conflicts with the goal of power for Democrats. But there's an actual lesson for this, and a lesson that is very, very important. If you are a person who wants to make sure that a sexual predator in a public office is given scrutiny, you have to vote for Republicans. If you want to make sure that public office holders will be hounded at any type of corruption, you're going to have to vote for Republicans. Think about that for a second. Think about how long this story was buried because Joe Biden was a Democrat. And that also makes me think of, they're talking about his records in Delaware. They took a month to do this. Do you really think that someone hasn't pulled the Sandy Burger and taken those records out by now? If there's any record of a complaint made by Tara Reade? I mean, that's the first thing I would do if I was in charge of the Biden campaign. I'd destroy any records like this because I know the media wouldn't call me out on it. I know the University of Delaware wouldn't call me out on it. You've already seen it. No one in his right mind thinks that those records still exist because it's not that's just common sense. Now, granted, you never will go poor betting on people acting stupid. But it's an amazing thing. Now, Larry Elder puts it very funny because Joe Biden was interviewed by Al Sharpton. And he said, only in America can a man who achieved fame by knowingly promoting Tawana Brawley's false accusation of rape become a dead Democrat kingmaker, get a TV show, and interview a Dem who claims he's a victim of a false accusation of rape. And he tags that chutzpah. But the real chutzpah is Christian Powers. Because Christian Powers not only went back as a CNN commentator and deleted all of her tweets concerning Kavanaugh, but after that, she came out and said, "Well, I can't discuss this with people because people are not looking to discuss this fairly." It's like, seriously? There's chutzpah and there's deleting all your Kavanaugh tweets chutzpah. But again, all of this proves one point. Well, 2 points, actually. First, we now know, thanks to Lisa Bloom, we now know that Joe Biden can actually sexually assault someone and people will still vote for him, even if they believe it. Because she said bluntly, I believe Biden did this. I'm still going to vote for him because Orange Man bad. Because Trump. Got to stop Trump. Biden could probably shoot someone in Fifth Avenue. They decide they had it coming. But what this really says is if you want accountability, if you want someone to be held accountable, you just have to vote for a Republican. Because it's already been determined the Democrats will not be held accountable by the press. And with the Flynn revelations that we're seeing that the Democrats, the FBI was doing this work for these guys. So if you want accountability, if you want scrutiny of government, you're going to have to vote for somebody that the left will scrutinize. And this is something that I actually said during election 2016 in an argument with I was quoting a piece and discussing a piece by Jonah Goldberg, who said, we can't have Trump because he's too unright. I said, listen, we have a dishonest Hillary Clinton and a potentially dishonest Donald Trump. If that's the case, let's take your thing as wrote that Donald Trump is dishonest and dishonorable. Well, so is Hillary Clinton. So naturally, you're going to have to vote for Trump, because if Hillary's elected, there'll be no scrutiny. We've already seen that. With Trump, they were crawling up his rear end for the last 4 years. So what happens if Biden is elected? What happens if Democrats are elected? Women, if you care about sexual assault by politicians, if you do not want a politician to get away with this, you're going to have to vote for a Republican, because we have Democrats now, Democrats activists on the record saying, I will vote for a person I believe sexually assaulted a Democrat staffer in order to defeat Donald Trump. And if you think that is only because it's Donald Trump, you're deluding yourself. Because remember, before Donald Trump was Hitler, Mitt Romney was Hitler. And before Mitt Romney was Hitler, George Bush was Hitler. And it goes back. It is just amazing to watch this stuff going down. It is astounding to watch how this is being played. And again, I think it does not help. I don't think it doesn't hurt Joe Biden for several reasons. First of all, when it comes down to it, Biden's not coming off the ticket. I don't think he's coming off the ticket. I thought for a little while that this was going to be an excuse to take him off the ticket, but he's not coming off the ticket. And the reasons he's not coming off the ticket are these, and I'm going to write about this later this week. First of all, he still won the majority of the primary, still has the majority of the delegates. So you're going to have to take him off the ticket. You're overturning elections that took place. Second of all, Joe Biden won because of the black vote. Now think about this for a second. Do you want to be the Democrat Party who said to the black vote, we don't care what your opinion was. We're not gonna support you, Joe Biden. We're gonna take all those black votes that were made in your favor and ignore them. That's gonna look really, really bad. Third of all, who is going to jump in at this point? We keep hearing, Cuomo might come in. Let's face something. We've already seen article after article about how reporters are getting ready to deal with the idea of a second Trump term. Trump's going to win this election. I literally have put money on it. That's how sure I am that Trump's going to win the election. And I even put even money on it. I even let them have even money that Trump wins this election. The Democrats believe it too. What Democrat is going to mess up the potential future? Because Trump obviously is not going to be president forever, despite what people say. The same people who said that Obama was going to stay in office. Now you got the opposite type. Trump is going to remain in office. It's not going to happen. It's all nonsense. To make that it's not serious. It's not going to happen. But why would you throw yourself out there with all those disadvantages? You're not going to. They're not just not going to. And that leaves and that's the other point. Joe Biden is, of all the Democrats, with the possible exception of Hillary Clinton, there is no Democrat more expendable than Joe Biden. Joe Biden is very old. Joe Biden cannot remember half of the things he says. Joe Biden, if he loses to Donald Trump, it doesn't reflect on him because he's not running for anything ever again. They need an SD Jones, someone to lose this match. Biden's perfect for that. You don't want to have somebody who you think has a potential for the future to lose here. Now, in the old days, that was not uncommon that a person would lose once and then run again. These days, people aren't as big into that. So you don't want that. And that's another reason why that Biden's not going to be replaced. But frankly, though, the process of replacing him would be very difficult. And there's every possibility that there won't even be a convention. Frankly, the Democrats don't want a convention. They will be very happy to have an excuse to not have a convention. So Biden's not going anywhere. And the Democrat activists are going to vote for him anyways. Now, whether or not this will affect suburban women, whether or not this will affect the swing state vote for Biden, that's the big question. And again, you're not going to be able, and again, they're trying to play the Trump card on this. But remember, Trump's personality and Trump's style and all of Trump's stuff was already baked in when Trump was elected. And now, I'm telling you, this is not going to play. This is not going to play. And I think that this hurts Biden a little bit, but it hurts the media more. This hurts Biden a little bit, but it hurts Democrats running more. This hurts Biden a little bit, but it's devastating for the media. This hurts Biden a little bit, but it's crushing for women's groups. All the right people are going to get hurt the most by this. And that's frankly, if there's the only reason why Biden could be removed is if these accusations and any further accusations that come in. You'll remember that Monday we already talked about one woman who bluntly said, Biden assaulted me, but I don't dare come forward because I've seen how Tara Reade is being treated. So unless it reaches a point where the Democrats think Joe Biden is going to cost them votes that they would normally get, he ain't going anywhere. And that's actually, it's sort of like the Tom Brady situation. One of the things that drive me crazy about it in New England is everyone's saying Brady's gone with disaster. And I would think the Patriots are going to lose more games. But the real question to ask is, what games will the Patriots lose this year that you think they would have won with Brady? Will the Democrats do better with a different candidate? If the Democrats won't do better with a different candidate, then there's no reason to replace Biden. There's just no reason to. So it's just really, really funny to watch all this happen. And it couldn't happen to nicer people than the media. The media it's just painful for them because all this Kavanaugh stuff, it was so public. And trying to pretend that it's not. I mean, Christian Powell's deleting all those tweets, all these folks. It's just so funny. That's what's really, really happened. And the irony of this is, you might recall, during the Kavanaugh hearings, Kavanaugh himself said that they have sown the wind and they will reap the whirlwind. And that's what's happening now. And remember, this is just Joe Biden. Every other Democrat who runs is now going to have to be vetted, and not just the pro forma investigations. There's a great Ramirez cartoon, which is a button. Me too, busy to cover the allegations against Joe Biden. It's just the damage that this has done to the left is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And I am going to be able to enjoy this because we're going to be able to hit the left for this over and over and over again. And we're going to have an awful lot of fun with it. And they are going to be terrible. And I mean, they're already trying to pivot. I mean, you got Jake Tapper asking Governor Whitner in Michigan, do you see Michigan stay-at-home protesters in the same vein as neo-Nazis? I mean, how do you ask a question like that? It's so over the top that I mean, where does the media go to get their reputation back? And boy, would that reputation have been useful? Because now, as the Hollywood Reporter is reporting, 4 more exhausting years, Trump reporters mull covering a second term. And it's just funny to watch the resignation kicking in. Because it's just going to be fun. It is going to be a lot of fun. Now, what do I think is going to happen with the ready stuff? I think it's going to go away. I think the media is going to say Biden answered the question once, that's it. I don't think they're going to go with it much more. If other women come forward, maybe they'll talk about it more. But this is the weekend to get rid of it. They decided they were going to go for it, get rid of it, and be done. They're just not going to discuss it anymore. They're just not. And it's amazing to think that we've reached that point. Well, actually, it's not all that amazing. This is what the left is. This is what the left does. And I want to read you, I'm going to close by reading you this piece from Newsbusters because this is classic. This is by Nicholas Funicaro. During an appearance on ABC's This Week, Republican National Committee Chairwoman Roma McDaniel leveled the media by calling out the hypocrisy and blacking out the rape accusation against Joe Biden, where they tried to excoriate Justice Brett Kavanaugh. The rebuke was so potent that fill-in host Martha Raddatz appeared unable to make eye contact and avoid looking at the camera while defending her network coverage. Possibly citing a Media Research Center study exposing the liberal media's on-air blackout of the rape accusation against presumed Democrat nominee Joe Biden, McDaniel called him out. And then this week, we've seen him finally be challenged for the first time in 5 weeks on accusations that many in the media has ignored. And finally, those are coming to light. After getting called out, Raddatz seemed to refuse to look into the camera as she defended her network and the rest of the industry. Well, I know we here at ABC have not ignored it, and many in the media have not ignored it. We haven't ignored it, she claimed. But that was a lie. As Newsbusters reported last Thursday, that day was the first time any broadcast evening newscast had covered the rape application from former Biden Senator staffer Tara Reade. Thursday was the first time ABC covered the story at all, with Good Morning America giving it some airtime after ignoring it for over a month. That night was also the first time NBC covered it on air. Raddatz's next question did shift to the allegation, but it was to note that the RNC was using it in an attack ad they were running against Biden. And how far will you go with these attack ads? Raddatz demanded to know. Daniel wasn't having any of Raddatz's nonsense and hit back hard, calling out the blatant and appalling double standard. I'm going to take issue with the media ignoring this. It's been appalling, the hypocrisy as to how Brett Kavanaugh was treated versus Joe Biden. Brett Kavanaugh, every accuser was put on TV. It was wall-to-wall coverage. They went into his high school yearbook. They said he needed an FBI investigation. Michael Avenatti was on TV accusing him of gang rape from an accuser who never even met Brett Kavanaugh. Going further, she pointed out the double standard fell in Biden's favor because of which party he was part of. And then you go to Joe Biden. 5 weeks of silence, 19 interviews without a single question. McDaniel decried. It went from it from Me Too and Me Too and Me Too to move on, to move on, to move on in a nanosecond because he's a Democrat. And the hypocrisy is appalling. It's not just from the Democrats, it's from the media. And I'll tell you, I think any outlet that did those 19 interviews and didn't ask a single question should be disqualified from conducting any part of a presidential debate, she added in a very serious tone. The other part of Raddat's question was about why President Trump said he would stick up for Biden. McDaniel noted it was because Republicans believed in due process under the law for all, a standard that the Democrats and the media thought only applied to them. But they threw it out the window when it came to Brett Kavanaugh, and so did the media, and the hypocrisy has been appalling. We need to do some self-reflection as to how Kavanaugh was treated versus how Biden is being treated right now, she declared before Raddatz ended the interview abruptly. And the transcript is there at the Newsbuster site, so you're going to want to check that out. But as I said, the most fun about this is not going to be so much Biden. Biden's going to survive this. Whether or not the media survive it all that well, that's another story. That's another story indeed. It's an amazing thing. Well, I want to thank you for joining us and spending 45 minutes or so with us. I want to remind you, if you like what you saw, please consider giving the podcast an up arrow. Please consider sharing it with friends, either on Twitter or Facebook or elsewhere, or by email. If you really liked it, consider subscribing to the podcast and to the channel so I can monetize it, or consider hitting the tip jar. And of course, you can find me at DaTechGuyblog.com, DaTechGuy blog.com. Again, thanks for spending some time with me on this early Monday morning. And I declare the Tech Guys Midnight Court for Monday, May 4th officially adjourned.